Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. It is Wednesday, December 4th. We'll begin with an invocation from Police Chaplain Williams.
Madam Mayor, Council, and staff, thank you so much for what you do. Would you please join me in a prayer of invocation? Lord, we lift up to you our mayor, our city council, and our staff members. They're precious and willing individuals that constantly share their leadership talents and gifting with our great city. Father, I ask that you draw the mayor and council close to you. Please anoint them with your wisdom, understanding, and discernment as only our master maker could do. Grant them favor and draw them close to you, allowing them to know and understand and fulfill your purposes. Lord, I also ask that you protect our city leaders, their families, keep them healthy and safe. Additionally, I ask the same protection for all of our city employees, fire and police, and their families. Keep them all healthy. Lord, we thank you in advance for your direction, your discernment, your love extended to our city. And to you, Lord, we give all the praise and all the glory. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now call to order the formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilman Galindo Elvira.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Robinson.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Vice Mayor Stark.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Oscar Monroy and Elsie Duarte are here to provide interpretation. Oscar, would you please introduce your team?
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, my name is Oscar Monroy, and together with my colleague, Elsie Duarte, we will be serving as Spanish interpreters for today's City Council formal meeting. I will now take a moment to introduce ourselves to our Spanish-speaking audience and review some guidelines. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos a la reunión formal del Consejo Municipal. Mi nombre es Oscar Monroy y junto con mi colega, Elsie Duarte, estaremos sirviéndoles hoy como intérpretes a nuestra audiencia de habla hispana. Deseamos pedirles de antemano, si va a dar un comentario público, por favor, hable despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada uno o dos oraciones para poder interpretar lo que esté diciendo de la manera más completa posible. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Will the city clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G7322 and 7326 through 7332, S51457 through 51500, and resolutions 22266 and 22267.
Thank you. Will the city attorney please explain public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on agenda items. Comments must be related to the agenda item and the action being considered by the council. General comments that go beyond the scope of the agenda item must be made in the citizen comment session at the end of the agenda. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending investigations, claims, or litigation. Additionally, any member of the public who appears before council in their capacity as a lobbyist must, as required by Phoenix City Code, disclose this fact before addressing council. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose the opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you. We'll first begin with the meeting minutes. Vice Mayor, do you have a motion on item 1?
Yes, I move to approve May 15th, 2024 formal meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Councilwoman Pastor, do you have a motion on item 2?
I move item 2 of approval of formal minute meetings.
Second. We have a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. We next go to boards and commissions to advise our city on important issues. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes. Motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commission nominations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Congratulations to our new commissioners. We do not have a swearing-in ceremony today, so we will go to liquor licenses. We advise the state of Arizona on liquor license applications. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve items 4 through 19.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, planning, and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to approve items 20 through 79, except the following: items 38, 39, 41, 43, 44, 50, 57, and 75 through 79, noting that item 75 has additional information and item 77 has additional information, and excluding the following items for virtual public comment: items 76, 77, 78, and 79. And can the clerk confirm if there are any other items that should be excluded for in-person public comment?
Yes, Mayor and Vice Mayor, also excluding item 73, also excluding item 73.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next go to item 38. We'll begin with testimony and then have a motion. We'll begin with Chuck Byers, followed by Kerwin Brown.
This is item 38. Greetings and salutations, Mayor Gallego and City Council members. My name is Chuck Byers, and I'm a dedicated veteran advocate working at regional, state, and national levels. Over the past 2 years, I've been deeply involved in planning and implementation of Homeless Veteran Village, spearheaded by the Tanner Community Development Corporation. Today, I'm here to express my full support for this transformative project. Veteran homelessness is a significant and growing issue nationwide, with approximately 1,200 homeless veterans in Maricopa County alone. Since 2002, national strategies such as Housing First and the Biden administration, all the Inside initiatives, have emphasized permanent and supportive housing as a primary solution for reducing homelessness. These evidence-based approaches prioritize housing as a foundation for addressing broader social and health challenges, with this goal of reducing homelessness by 25% in 2025. The Tanner Thomas Village for Veterans fully aligns with these federal policies and proven practices located in a 5-acre property in South Phoenix. This gated community will include 37 individual casitas and a community resource center staffed with trained advocates. This project stands apart because it offers transformational programming, providing veterans with a hand up instead of just a handout. These advocates will deliver veteran-specific case management, addressing all social determinants of health, and we are prepared with wraparound services for the village, not only uplift the veterans addressing critical issues, like veteran suicide and heat-related deaths. I thank you, Council.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. I'll probably be somewhat brief because you are more aware probably than anybody else of the situation in this city about homelessness and the percentage of those homeless that are veterans. Tanner Community Development Corporation has been involved in building not only a place for these veterans on a permanent basis. Instead of temporary housing, this is permanent housing. They also are providing, as Mr. Byers said, a resource center for wraparound services. And those services will be dedicated to those tenants in this facility, not on a temporary basis, but until they are able to better themselves, whether that be job training, whether it be navigating the health care for veterans. We will be there to support the veterans that live at Tanner Thomas Veterans Facility. I would hope that the council and the mayor would also support these efforts to help the veterans in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a real need for affordable housing in Phoenix, and we had a presentation a few weeks ago that shows the remarkable investment we are making in our community. Veterans housing has been a priority of mine personally. When I was on the city council, we cited more veterans housing in my district than anywhere else. As part of that experience, I've known that there are a lot of additional rules in working with veterans and a lot of needs for additional support. Every project comes in with really good values behind it, but not every project is successful. I've had concerns about this specific project for a while, and when I was asked by the applicant to support it several years ago, I declined to do so. These kinds of tiny home developments have had mixed results in other communities. In this case, I am also concerned that the applicant has been putting this project together for 3 years to work with unsheltered veterans, but has not yet reached an agreement with any service providers who have real experience working with unsheltered veterans. In my experience, this can be a challenging population who has really important but sometimes intense needs. We need to make sure the right support structures exist to put these veterans on the right path. So we'll move forward with this item, but if the council does not approve it, this item will remain, the funds will remain available and the applicant can reapply. We judge teams based on the application they put forward. To be fair and competitive, you can't change your team after scoring because that is not fair to the other people who apply. So I would hope to see a new application with improvements in the project and the application. I held a meeting with the team last week and they did not yet have a service provider in place. When they applied, they did not have the service provider in place. So I think there's potential here, but we really have to do a good job when we take on this challenge. It's fair to the neighbors of the community, and it's also fair to the veterans who've served our country and deserve our best. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I too, by the way, my husband was a veteran. He served in the Army. And I too had some concerns in reading the staff report about who was going to provide the services. It looks like this organization does most of the development, and I had some of the same concerns. I just don't see who's attached to this that would provide the level of service that our veterans need. I too have concerns. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Hunt Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. This one is a difficult one for me. This is in my district. This is a project that I have met with early stages. I want to acknowledge the mayor and the vice mayor's concern regarding the absence of a more established service provider for the wraparound services. But I wanted to see if our deputy city manager, Gina Montes, could answer a question or two regarding this for me. And Titus, you can join us as well. Because of the procurement rules, I did not engage with the applicant during the procurement period. So I just have some questions that hopefully you can answer regarding this and help me to get some clarity on what is moving forward. Given the the application did not include a service provider that provides the types of services that we traditionally would expect in this type of a setting, what was the thought process behind approving these funds? Could you share a little bit more with us beyond what is stated in the actual packet today?
Mayor, members of the council, excuse me, my voice is breaking up. We had 3 respondents respond to this RFP, the NOFO. In this particular case, Turner Village has a community resource center that they're optioning to use to provide in-house services. In the past, we have done similar situations where we had home funds with developers. A case, an example is like UMOM and Native American Connections also provide services in-house. So it's an option. So one of the things I want to state is this is a recommendation from the Housing Department, but at the end of the day, it's the Mayor and Council who recommends the outcome of this award. But in addition to that, the panel looked at all 3 proposals. Even though the council may award or not award today, the process continues because we have to figure out, working with the developer to ensure that they comply with all the rules of the federal regulations. There's going to be a lot of process reviews and checklists and a land use rental agreement that states that they have to provide services, otherwise they'll jeopardize the funding they receive.
So if I heard you correctly, at this juncture, even if we were to move forward, if the city council were to move forward with this, they would still have to be able to establish or to show that they have the adequate service providers to move forward the wraparound services to actually receive those funds.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Are there anything, and I didn't get to look at, are there any benchmarks or any time frame in which the applicant would have to identify the availability of a provider to provide those services?
So, Councilwoman Keisha Washington and the mayor and members of the council, typical deal like we do in this type of deal, it takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months to complete all the processes. So one of the things we have to do is environmental assessments. We have to do subsidy layering. We have to look at the service providers. We have to create a land use rental agreement that is attached to the units for affordability. In this case, it's 15 years. And we have to make sure they have all their documents in place to ensure we comply with the federal regulation, because otherwise they will not get notice to proceed to move forward with the project.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. I think that covers all of the questions I had regarding the service providers and just understanding the process moving forward. I presume the other question I had, because this is a little different of a location, it's more adjacent to a residential community. Do we have any information that we can share regarding the community's reception to such a program?
That result, Councilwoman Washington, members of the council, that also is part of the process. It's public engagement with the community, making sure they're on board with this project. And that's part of the environmental reviews and archaeological reviews and all the reviews we do, because HUD requires that to do as well, making sure the input is sought and there's an engagement process. They have to provide documentation and the meeting notices that they engage the community.
And just so we understand what happens if these conditions are not met, do those funds revert back? What happens is the next step?
The next step is if it's not awarded or the deal does not go forward, it comes back to us to be awarded again. To do another NOFO, we'll issue a notice of funding opportunity to release those funds again. So HUD has given us to spend these funds by September 2030.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I want to make sure we understand what happens if we move forward as a council approving this item, but for one reason or the other, the applicant is unable to meet the conditions that are necessary, automatically reverts, and we will then move forward with a new opportunity, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you so much for the clarification. That concludes my questions, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Many times when we've done similar votes, we've done the community engagement before the vote. To me, that is what makes sense. Once we have voted, it becomes much more complicated to make changes. We've had several high-profile investments, including the safe outdoor space, where we did months of community engagement before we voted. We also are seeing a change in administration, and it's really valuable to me that the first time we allocate this funding, we get it right. I had a meeting publicly posted in accordance with the transparency policy just a few days ago, and there was no service provider in place. Again, we have been a leader in Phoenix in housing veterans, but there's a lot of really important needs that need to be met, and we ought to have a team that has that experience here. So I would like to know what the community feels about this and who the team is before I vote. We can reissue it and award with that team in place, but we do, as a council, have a lot less input after we have voted. And so that's a real concern to me. We've had challenges with tiny home communities in the past. Our most successful communities have on-site services that are well staffed and can respond and be nimble. I want to know what that plan is before I vote. I think it's possible that they could get there. The board of Tanner and team is very respected community leaders, but we ought to check the boxes before we vote. Really important issue to our community. We've been in a period where we've had resources to address housing from the federal government. We don't know if that will continue, so we ought to get this right. Councilwoman Pastor.
Let me take a deep breath. So my understanding is that you brought this item in front of us without, at this moment, with the provider, and the concerns are the community. So my question is, there are 3 applicants. Can we vote on 2 of the applicants and the current, the third applicant then provides a provider and the concerns that are up here? Or if it's voted down, then it starts the process all over again. Am I correct?
Councilman Pastor, members of the council, that is correct. And the other 2 respondents have been approved already by this council. It was items 36 and 37. So this is item 38.
Okay.
If it's voted down, yes, we can issue another funding opportunity and come back and do another process, and they can reapply.
Is there a possibility to continue this item? I mean, what I mean is, there's no timeline. I mean, please explain.
Councilwoman Pastor, members of the council, the funding deadline for this funding source is a few years out. And so if it's not approved today, if it's continued to a future meeting, we're not putting the funding in jeopardy. I can't speak for the provider and the applicant developer in this situation, but it wouldn't jeopardize the funding.
Okay, because what I've heard in all the different questions is that if we move it forward, all these pieces have to be together in order to receive funding, which were the provider and the community piece. What I'm hearing also with the questions that I asked is that if we continue it, the money still continues to stay here until a provider and possibly a community component has been done. So there is a way to either move this forward or continue it in order to answer and provide what is needed.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Pastor, if we withdraw the item or pull the item, what happens is it's in limbo in terms of the funding is then paused. We can't issue a new RFP or a NOFO till we resolve this particular item.
Okay, I'm confused, but.
So if we were to say continue it to January 22nd, could we have a public community meeting?
Yeah.
And get a very clear service plan in place?
We can ask the developer if that's possible.
Okay. And Julie, would that be fine with legal?
Yes, Mayor and Council.
Okay.
So should we ask the developer or we just vote on it and let it, I mean, may I ask the developer?
Mr. Brown,
Mayor and Council, let me first of all clarify something. The reason that we did not contract a provider now is because we haven't even broken ground on this development. That's the only reason. I am in the process of talking to several different providers to make sure that we have those people who are going to fit into what we're building. To your question, if we could take this and have it a provider chosen by the 22nd of January, sure. That's not, if I had known that that was the holdup on this, it would have been done. But I had no reason to be expedient on this until I at least started breaking ground on the project. So to answer your question, yes, that would be acceptable to me.
wonderful, thank you. And just, the provider plan matters to me ahead of time. If you want to have someone on site, you may want to think about that in your site plan. It is harder to make changes to a project once they're under construction. No one would feel good about making changes to a half-built project or undoing construction. That feels wasteful. It is harder to change and have community input meetings after you're already building. The community sort of feels like you started without them. So to me, this order makes much more sense. Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
I was going to let Councilman Galindo first, and then I will, if you don't mind, I'll close.
Sorry, I was looking right. Councilman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hodge Washington. You're very kind. So I'm a big supporter of integrated health, or what some people call wraparound services. And I do want to make sure we get this right for our veterans. These brave men and women wore our nation's uniform. I want to make sure they're taken care of in the best way possible. So I would like to know, what is the definition that we're going to be using for wraparound services? And does a service provider that is selected have to be accredited by a body like, for example, like CARF?
Councilman Galindo and members of the council, that is something we will work with the developer to ensure, especially as it pertains to veterans. We work with several developers currently through the VA and other providers to ensure the veteran services are provided. A good example is Native American Connections, and some of their deals work with the VA closely to provide case management and supportive services as well.
Well, he just answered what I was going to say, but in our wraparound services we're not only talking about healthcare, but because this is a permanent housing with no age limits, if it was a younger vet that needed job training, we're committed to helping with that as well. And in the process of looking for outside organizations that can provide a lot of those types of support. If whether it's mental or physical health, we're also committed to having relationships with organizations that can help that. Don't get me wrong, we will have on-site people who report directly to me to coordinate all of these efforts. So I hope that answers the question. And Mayor, if you like, I can stand here and answer whatever additional questions that may come up.
Anyone have additional questions? Right, I think we're good. Councilwoman Hodge Washington, I think, doesn't have a question, but has a
I want to make a motion.
comment. Oh, you do. Would you like Mr. Brown to stay at the microphone?
No, I think he's already addressed my concerns. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I think given the conversation and the concerns that have been raised, this is a project we want to see move forward as a council. However, we want to make sure that it's done correctly. We have some concerns regarding the service providers. We have some concerns regarding the community outreach. As mentioned, this is not a situation where we can we can't undo it when we started. So while I do find the project to be very it has a lot of potential. It also has some gaps that we need to address as we want to make sure before we move forward. Given the advice that we received from our attorney saying that we could do this, I would like to see us continue this for a minimum of 30 days so that we can, that the applicant can submit an actual provider plan, because it is important to get it right. Housing is a key part of the solution, but we want to make sure that they are provided with the resources necessary to provide success. We also want to see that there is an actual outreach done with the community. I think the community needs to understand, the adjacent community needs to understand the population that's going to be there, what that looks like, what are the net effects of these, of everything, and know that there is an actual plan. We are the ones that would be facing the phone calls if this does not go right, so we want to make sure we do it correctly. I would encourage Tanner to meet with other organizations who have integrated themselves into a similar community and see what type of services they have provided. We have seen tremendous success with some of our shelters, and although this is more permanent supportive housing, I think we should follow kind of the similar model when it comes to this. So again, this is just meant to be more of a support measure. It seems like my council is in support of this, but we want to make sure we do it right. So we definitely, I would want to continue this to allow for those two major components, which is to provide an outreach plan for the community where there's meaningful feedback, and second, to make sure that we have a true plan for the service provider for the needed wraparound services.
Second.
So can we do a January 22nd?
January 22nd works.
So Councilman, just to be clear, you have made a motion to continue this to January 22nd?
Yes, with two conditions.
Wonderful. And do we want to repeat the conditions?
The condition is the community outreach is done with with outreach information on what to expect. And the second condition is to ensure that you have an articulated plan as to who will be the service providers providing what components of the services, wraparound services.
Deputy City Manager Montes?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm just wondering if the January 22nd is enough time to do the amount of outreach that's being requested. So I wonder if
if you have another recommendation, I will take it.
I think 2 months. So we're thinking 60 days. So the 30-day, the 2 meetings following the 22nd, I don't have it in front of me, would be.
Let me look.
The 19th of February?
Yes.
Great.
So my motion is to continue to the 19th of February to provide for two things, the community outreach as well as the identification of the service providers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and I would ask I come up with the service plan before the community meeting so that the community can have input on the service plan. Councilman O'Brien? Nope. All right. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. Thank you all for doing this. It will be, I think, a better project as a result, and we hope a point of pride for the neighborhood, but very thankful. We have voted, we had 3 projects on today. 2 of them had identified service providers in their application. This one had not, and we're going to remedy that. All right. Item 39 is financial community assistance services, noting Councilman Pastor won't participate in this one. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve item 39.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark, Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 8-0.
Thank you. And next is 41, the City of Phoenix Eviction Legal Services Qualified Vendor List. Councilman O'Brien, I'll turn to you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I would like to move to approve item 41 with the addition to the motion that if a vendor on this qualified vendors list contract is terminated for cause, that they are automatically removed from the qualified vendors list.
Second.
Mayor, if I might.
Please, Councilwoman.
The reason for this addition is that there have been concerns in the past with vendors on the qualified vendor list, and sometimes they don't meet staff's requirements or expectations, but they can then still stay on the qualified vendors list with the potential to receive additional contract in the future and/or business. With this motion, I just want to ensure that we don't continue to reward bad actors in the future with contracts or business when they have already been, have proven that they don't meet our expected standards. So I understand that there is a second RFQ opened up right now to add more vendors to this QVL, and would expect this motion would be treated equally among all of those respondents. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hodge Washington, or Councilwoman Pastor? I'm sorry, who would like to comment?
I would like to comment.
Right, okay, we'll go to Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I had my comments prepared before the motion was made, and I guess I want to ask a clarifying question regarding the removal of a vendor if it's terminated for cause. Can someone tell me what the current procurement standard is for a vendor that has been removed for, whose contract has been terminated for cause?
Mayor, members of council, I mean, I can speak to that generally. So generally, it does depend on, as you know, the language in the contract. And at times we can terminate a contract for convenience, but if a contract is terminated for cause, that terminates the contract. And we discussed specifically this, as you know, sometimes for a qualified vendor list, there's a contract and then there's assignments, and so there might be multiple contracts. So with that understanding, I think here the idea is that if there was a for cause, that the city would remove that vendor from the list so that they would not get any further assignments until this was re-solicited.
So with the proposed amendment from Councilwoman O'Brien, is that providing a different standard than which we hold other vendors that do business with the city of Phoenix?
Mayor, members of council, I would say no. Usually if we do have a list, we need to also have a contract in place. So again, we might have a contract where we might assign, different scopes under that contract, but we definitely would need a contract. So if a contract is canceled, removing those vendors from a qualified vendor list I would say would be in line with city policy.
So I guess maybe I want to make sure I understand, is the amendment or the language as proposed by Councilman O'Brien actually necessary? Or is that the net effect of what already happens under the city's procurement standards?
Mayor, members of council, I believe that is what happens. However, if council, wishes to clarify and put that into a motion and make sure that that occurs in this case, then, that's not a violation of any of our procurement rules.
Okay. Given that my comments were more so that the right to counsel has its pros and its cons, and one of the criticisms that it often hears is its effectiveness. There's very little data in which to support it. So my comments I wanted to make, I was beat to the motion by Councilman O'Brien. I wanted to ensure that our contract, we provide a motion that I don't know if Councilman O'Brien would allow a substitute motion to provide for ensuring that we compile and we keep adequate, require our service providers to provide, to maintain adequate metrics so we can determine the success of the program, such as identifying case performance indicators, client-centered metrics, and understanding the efficiency and the access to the program. Some of the data that I have seen from our prior system, our prior usage under this program has not been as extensive as I would have appreciated. And it raises a question for those that are critics of this program, what is the usefulness or how useful is this program? So I definitely would like to stress that this is this initiative has the ability to make meaningful change for a procedural process for those that are facing evictions. But we also need to ensure, as a fiduciary to our community, that we are ensuring that we are compiling the right data necessary to determine its effectiveness. So I would like, if with Councilwoman O'Brien, if there is a possibility to amend her motion to include for maintenance of actual metrics so that we can track the progress of this program and its effectiveness.
I am certainly open to a friendly amendment. I would, sorry, Mayor, I apologize.
Councilwoman, I think it's very appropriate that you speak, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Pastor.
Am open to a friendly amendment to my motion. I do just want to clarify that when I was briefed on this item, I was led to believe that you could, yeah, I should say, it was my understanding, I shouldn't say I was led to believe, it was my understanding of the conversation that a qualified vendor could be deemed to not be performing per their contract, but still be left on the QVL and end up getting business again. And so that was the purpose and the reasoning for my amendment, is to ensure, especially in this case, that cannot occur. So, when I spoke to staff, it was particularly about this, not in a general broad perspective, and that's why my amendment was that. I am also completely supportive of making sure that there are metrics to ensure that we are not just getting outputs, but actual outcomes and positive outcomes for the citizens of Phoenix that are successful and reaching towards the objectives we desire. Councilwoman Hodge Washington. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Pastor.
I'm waiting for the response
Deputy City Manager Montez.
to Councilwoman O'Brien saying that she was led.
It was really my understanding. I apologize, poor choice of words.
And it was made very clear by our lawyer that even adding this, it's part of the contract.
Sure, Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, we interpreted as best we could what we understood under, a QVL. If we terminated a contract, we believe them to be still on the QVL, but we wouldn't normally, in practice, execute another contract with someone, with a vendor who was not performing. So if it's not possible to do that, then, it's not a circumstance we see very often. So if I misunderstood or we misunderstood, I apologize for that, Council.
Mayor, if I
please.
I think that you did. I don't want anybody to think that I was misled. I think that it was, as we communicate and we understand things, your expertise is not contract law, and so I appreciate Julie's perspective, but I just wanted folks to understand why I wanted this amendment to the motion to approve. Thank you for your clarification.
Councilwoman Pastor.
I have many questions. First is to Julie. So then this motion, do we even need that type of motion? I know we would like to add metrics to it and several things, but.
Mayor, members of council, the tracking of metrics would be on the city side. So that is certainly something that we would need to add to ensure, to give direction to staff. In regards to taking the vendor off of a QVL, again, if the contract is terminated, then we would not have a contract and we would not be able to use that vendor. Whether or not they remain on a list, we would have to enter a new contract. So I think the clarification is fine, but.
Okay, so then we're adding the clarification, the motion is the clarification, and then we're adding the metrics. Yes, no?
Mayor, members of council, that's my understanding of the motion and the friendly amendment that's on the table right now.
Okay. What I want to say is Community Legal Service worked very closely with 3 council members on this dais during our, how do I want to say it? During the time when people were being displaced from trailer homes. And we worked very closely, and I was in once a week, if not twice a week, meetings with CLS on helping those constituents get what was fair to them, but also get the legal advice that they needed in order to either move a trailer, sell a trailer, move to another space, all the things that we had to do. And it was a very, very heavy lift. And each one of the council members that was part of it, the nuances were different with each trailer court. But yet, Community Legal Services was there for them, along with the other nonprofit helping lead through that process. So it sounds like there was a procurement. Community Legal Service is the one that received it. And I have had, in this process, great experience with them. Now, I do understand the back conversation that has been going around, because I also heard and had community call me regarding this, wanting metrics, wanting pieces, wanting a lot of different things. We didn't add that when we were in the process. We didn't add, we did it as we went, and we were trying to figure out all the things that were needing to be done, because we were in a new space and time as to how we were operating. So I think it's unfair that right now we're having this discussion when this is supposed to go to Community Legal Services, and if there was an issue by staff, then staff should have been having the conversation with them and asking them, do we have these metrics? Because we didn't ask for these metrics and we're asking for them now. So my suggestion, and I hope my colleagues vote for it, is that then you add the metrics that you want in order to get the information that you need to know that it's effective. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Galindo Avira.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't find an issue with the motion, the amendment by Councilwoman O'Brien, or the friendly amendment by Councilwoman Heed Washington. The additive language for metrics, I think, is important, because as a person who's written grants for most of my life, even if you write a $5,000 grant, there are metrics. There are outcomes that are required. And if we're expending the taxpayer dollar, we should expect there to be metrics for all of the things that we're doing to know whether it's failing, succeeding. I don't know which, the name of the organization that Councilwoman Pastor, who has worked diligently on this issue in the past, I was not aware of that. But what I am aware of, the need to have this language. When my first meeting as a councilman was a budget hearing, and the number one item that was asked of that budget hearing was right to counsel from people throughout the district. So we want to ensure that this program succeeds and it thrives, but we also need to know the numbers, because as we look at our budget going forward, we may need to seek philanthropic support. Well, if you're going to seek philanthropic support, whether it's corporate or a foundation, they're going to ask for numbers. And if you can't provide numbers, you can't provide those outcomes, that's going to become a funding issue that will burden the city of Phoenix and ultimately harm the individual seeking that assistance. And I think taxpayers want us to make sure that we're looking for solutions and that we have the information to look for those solutions, especially for funding.
Thank you, Councilman. And Councilwoman, or Vice Mayor Stark, you were the seconder. Do you accept the friendly amendment from Councilwoman Hodge Washington? Yes. She does. All right. And I guess one question, I was a little surprised that we only had one applicant for this service. We have a great team of public defenders who participate in our procurements and provide legal assistance to our community. I would have guessed some of them might have wanted to participate, or maybe some of our academic institutions. Who got this procurement? To whom did we send it?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. So we did some outreach and there was one respondent to the RFQU. We did re-release that RFQU, which will close on December 16th, did much more expansive outreach to both educational institutions, other providers in the community as well, held 2 different sessions for pre-proposal conferences that did have more potential respondents show up at those pre-proposal conferences. Because we too hope that there will be multiple providers that we can work with to provide legal assistance in our community.
Wonderful, thank you. And for folks who are watching, the council at a recent council meeting unanimously approved significant funding to provide this assistance because we want people to find solutions that keep them housed. All right.
I have one more. Sorry.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
I just have one clarifying question on the data, and when Councilwoman Pastor was asking about who could collect the data, I believe someone said the city has to collect the data. And I guess I'm confused on how that will work. If we're referring a client or a citizen to a vendor for services received, our staff is no longer necessarily working with them. So can you explain that process to me?
Councilwoman O'Brien, Mayor, members of the council, I'll jump in and I'll allow staff to clarify if my understanding is incorrect, because we did speak about this a few weeks ago. My understanding is, knowing that you guys had wanted metrics, our intent was to include metrics in the final contract when we get there, the metrics that we want to collect, that we can show you how the program has been effective or not effective. But it is not on us to collect that data. That data will have to be collected by the vendor that is providing the service, and that will be a condition of them actually receiving payment. From my perspective, it will be a reimbursement. You don't get paid until you show us what we need.
Okay, so the vendor will actually be collecting and providing the data and then giving it to us, so we can evaluate. You all will evaluate it at one level, but then City Council will get to see that data as we go through the process. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I may, I want to make sure my intentions were clear. I have been a supporter of the Right to Counsel initiative from day one. Having served as a lawyer, I understand the equal and a balancing of power that comes when both sides are represented by counsel. My comments or requests in metrics were based on prior communication when they presented to the Economic Development and Housing Subcommittee earlier this year, where we went over we went over what has occurred under the Right to Counsel thus far. And we had significant conversation with the vendor at that time regarding some of the outcomes. And one of the concerns I had was, what is your level of success when it comes to monetary default versus non-monetary default? Because there has been some concerns raised about, if it's a purely monetary default, would the city be better off providing assistance to those families in another way versus legal representation? There was also some questions I had regarding the tracking of the outcome. Do we have any data that shows whether or not the cases were dismissed, continued, settled, stayed? And the service provider unfortunately said they did not have the ability, they said their success was greater than the data that they currently had showed. So my goal in asking for this information is I wanted to have a more comprehensive picture of what is going on truly when it comes to the TEAP program. So that's what I'm asking for, and it was not intended to seem that we don't keep data, but I wanted us to keep a little more information, such as understanding the average wait time for obtaining counsel. We know that the eviction process is a very expedited process, and if individuals are not getting to the counsel in a speedy fashion, are we really helping that person at that juncture? I also want us to keep track of things such as, like I said, some of the more categories of favorable and unfavorable legal rulings. Are we actually seeing this be part of the solution when it comes to reducing evictions? Maricopa County, as we all know, has been seeing a continuing increase in evictions. I really just wanted us to have more information so that we can address the underlying issue. If it's not so, I mean, I'm biased. I think the lawyer will solve everything, but that's not accurate. And I want to just make sure that we are using, I really do believe that we are fiduciary, and I want to make sure that we are using our resources in a manner that provide the best impact for those affected, and we are using our city funds in a prudent manner. So I would, so it was my understanding that it had to be specifically identified in our contract with the vendor, as mentioned by City Manager Barton. And I just want to make sure that it's abundantly clear to any service provider that we want to understand the metrics, we want to understand the data, and we want to be able to use this. Many of my colleagues here, we served on a kind of a think tank session on the right to counsel, and that's one of the things that is often missing. And I want to make sure that Phoenix leads the conversation in ensuring that we do have the metrics to show whether or not this program works. So those were the intentions of my comments. So I thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to explain myself.
Thank you, very helpful. And I really like the Councilwoman's suggestion that we also have client-centered metrics. How did the client feel the legal assistance went? Thank you. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. We next go to two items related to the library, 43 and 44. I'll turn to Councilman Waring for a motion and comments.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move approval of items 43 and 44 and make some brief comments after the second, assuming there's
Second.
one. Thank you. For 43, the integrated library system, I assume this is sort of how the public interacts with the library, plus also how the library moves books around. I think that's probably the layman's translation. Erin, our chief librarian, is nodding her head, so I guess I'm right in that assumption. I well remember the days of going to the Westmont Public Library in Illinois using the card catalog, and so things have come a long way. But I would say I'm a technophobe, and this is an extremely usable system. I know I've suggested a few tweaks here and there, like maybe people watching at home didn't know if the library doesn't have a book, you can either order it from some other library around the country through interlibrary loan, or you can ask them to purchase it. And if the vendor has it, they can do that as well. At your suggestion, you do have to dig a little bit to find that on the website. So I suggested maybe that should be on the facing page, but don't blow up the whole website, because otherwise it's very linear and I think very clear. I find it very usable. And it really takes away any excuse not to read, because there are, I don't know how many products you have, but probably millions, I'm guessing. So I just appreciate what they do, and I think it's been a fantastic system. You can order books to have them delivered, so you can just go to one location and pick up 5 or whatever you need at a time. You don't have to go hunt and peck if you don't want to. The second thing, which is a relatively newer addition, I assume, Erin, that this is the listen to books on your phone system, more or less? All right, yeah, sure, if that's not an accurate. I'm going to talk about it anyway, but if you're going to tell me this isn't, I'm close. All right, fantastic. Missed it by that much. All right.
Media resources. This one is for professional development, workforce development. So it's for all of the resources that would help get people prepared for certifications and tests and things like that. So yes, you're right, it is an e-media resource. It's a little bit different than the one that you use to listen to audiobooks, but you're, same idea.
That's a shame, because the one I listen to audiobooks is fantastic, but I'm too old for professional development, even though I'm sure there are many things I could learn.
They're amazing too.
I will say, for people who aren't familiar, and I've gotten friends to use it now, it is really no more CDs, or I mean, you could do that way, I suppose, but it's really fantastic that you can call up, almost new books pretty much instantly and listen to them as you're out on a walk or whatever. I think that's fantastic. So sorry, I was a little off course. I wasn't totally sure, which is why I asked. But I appreciate what you guys are doing. And Mayor, I will shut up now. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any additional comments? Vice Mayor?
I just want to say that Councilman Waring is a huge advocate for the library. And many times when I was shopping at Paradise Valley Mall, I would see him walking in and out of Mesquite Library. You probably go there 3 times a week, right, Jim? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you for your advocacy.
Wasn't always for me. When my dad was alive, I would pick up books for him. But yes, I'm still there probably 2 times a week for sure.
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman O'Brien.
Sorry, thank you. I would like to say yay, everything they said. This is incredible. It is wonderful to be able to pick up books from wherever, as well as have access to the online books. So I'm thrilled with our library system and appreciate all the hard work that you do. So I look forward to supporting this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also have used this system, got to read all the Wild Robot books with my kiddo, which we both very much enjoyed. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado. Yes. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring.
After all that, yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next go to item 50, Vice Mayor.
I happily recommend approving item 50.
Motion and a second. Councilman Waring.
Mayor, so this one, I love the program, so definitely pro-tree. I do have concerns, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, about how we're taking care of trees. I see a lot of trees that are either in distress or are frankly dead. I just looked on my phone because I was curious, because they're replanting now some trees that we had just planted and are already dead. September 1st, 2022 was the last time, or the first time I requested the trees on Greenway, and then there's been subsequent ones. It's 2.5 years. We planted trees in like the spring of 2022. They were dead 6 months later. It's not a good look. So it's been 2.5 years they've been sitting there dead. I probably mentioned it every couple months for the intervening 30 months. So I appreciate the fact that now it sounds like there is actually a plan to replace them. But a lot of those trees weren't dead when I first mentioned it, and I was told, oh, they're dormant or whatever. Well, I don't know anything about trees, but I know if you plant a whole bunch of the same trees and some of them are bright green and some are turning brown and then stay brown for several years, I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. They're probably dead. So I don't know. We sent people out, presumably, and they looked at these trees. That's concerning to me. So if we have to spend less on planting new trees and more on maintaining the trees that we have, because I won't belabor the whole list, but it's a pretty lengthy one of trees just around the routes that I drive and sort of the normal course of business. I got 700 something miles of streets in my district, so I'm not on all of them every day or every week, but I do try to remember, and then when I'm stopped, appropriately text, hey, this location. And I did get curious. I didn't realize it had been quite that long, but these are things I brought up a lot, and I just think planting trees and then letting them die kind of undermines probably public confidence, because everybody's seeing those trees. That's the point. They're out there on the big streets. Undermines confidence in the whole enterprise, So I would appreciate if we could focus on that. I brought this up before. So I think the program is fantastic. And for some others who have had trees planted, I see those. Great locations really makes a huge difference, but not if we allow the trees to die. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to the Vice Mayor, then Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you. I share some of the same concerns that Councilman Waring has, and that's why I'm happy to make a motion to approve this, because I think this will help solve some of those problems. I've had a constituent who has a tree. She backs up to Major Street, and the tree has been planted, I think, 3 times and has died 3 times. And there's just something going on. And I am very hopeful that this inventory system will help us get to some of the questions and the frustrations that Councilman Waring mentioned. So very excited to vote for this.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington, and then Councilwoman Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor. I too share some of the same concerns as Councilman Warren. In fact, I raised some of those concerns when we were discussing the tree and shade plan. I appreciate the inventory that we're going to undergo, but I think we also need to look into an assessment with our vendor if we're getting our trees from an outside vendor. Many times the vendors, I'm speaking from the HOA world, when you replace a tree within a certain amount of time, if it dies or it is found to be in a certain state, they provide a tree warranty or replacement. And I think we need to figure out if there's anything else we can do to ensure that the city isn't just simply paying for replacement, where it becomes more of a responsibility of the actual vendor to upkeep the trees. It is definitely a shame for us when I see a tree that is dying, when it looks like it's something based on lack of water or just not getting the right maintenance that that it should. It's part of our responsibilities. We should be making sure that we are using our resources as prudently as possible, including ensuring the trees are protected. So my comment is simply, is there anything else we can look into, see if there's anything else we can do to ensure that that our vendors are incentivized to maintain the trees versus just contracting for a replacement. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're looking for a response to that, or?
If they think they can, it'd be helpful to know if there's anything in the contracts that could help us. If not, it's a consideration for as we move forward.
They don't know what to do.
We're trying to get someone up here to answer that question specifically for you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Pastor, members of the City Council. I'm Scott Coughlin. I'm Deputy Director with Parks. The forestry section is responsible for maintaining trees over 12 feet on the major streets and arterials. When it comes to planting and maintaining those trees, a lot of that is, especially on the streets, is done by the Streets Department. Realistically, when you see sections of that, a lot of times it's a water issue or an irrigation issue. So it's working with their inspectors who are going out and checking these areas and following up. Once you contract with a person to plant those trees, there's a warranty if the tree fails due to poor planting, planted too deep, those issues. If it's a water issue, it really is a city maintenance issue, making sure that those systems are functioning. And in parks, when we plant a tree, we make sure that there's irrigation brought to that tree. Because I agree with all of you, the worst thing we can do is go out to one of our parks and plant 50 or 60 trees and see 20 or 30% of them not make it through the first year. So does that answer your question?
It does answer part of my question. My next question would be, well, what can we do differently to ensure we don't continue to see that? Many times, for example, a constituent will call in and say there is clearly a segment of the street where they're not getting water at the trees. We encourage them to contact streets, and they do that, and they don't get the result that they don't get any response. So what can we do differently to ensure that? What process improvements would you recommend to ensure that this doesn't continue to happen?
Mayor and council, that is something that I've seen in the short 3 months that I've been there. I get lots of questions about trees and how we're maintaining them. I can commit to you that I'll go back to our team and look at how we're especially new plantings, how we're going back and inspecting them and making sure that our inspectors have them on a more frequent inspection route when they're first planted, to make sure that that's happening and that they stay healthy.
I would truly appreciate that. And I would also add that not just the new plantings, but when we do get concerns from a community indicating that there seems to be lack of water in an area, that we have some process in place that allows department staff to go and inspect those and rectify them in a more expedient manner. So thank you so much for that.
Scott? I think I think you wanted to respond to what the council, I think that
Yes.
our staff wanted to respond to the councilwoman.
One of the things that we are seeing throughout the city and the department is over the last 2 summers, the amount of heat that we've experienced. And a lot of our trees are desert trees, and they do extremely well. But especially a lot of the older trees that you see downtown, the Aleppo pines and that, which are desert pine trees, but they were propagated here in the U.S. And I've grown up here since 1967, and I've never seen heat like this. I've never seen the saguaro cactuses responding the way they do. So a lot of what you're seeing, the stress in that, is heat related over water. We're seeing it on our golf courses, and our golf courses get watered daily in the summer. So a lot of it has to do with heat stress, but yeah, that is one of the major things. And that's part of what this inventory is going to help us with. It is actually going to go out and give us a health assessment of every one of the trees in parks, streets, and at city facilities. So we actually know where we're at, and then we can go along and address some of those issues.
Thank you so much for the clarification.
We'll go to Councilman Waring and then Councilwoman Pastor.
So just a couple points. So the ones on Thunderbird that I've called in, there's a string of them. I guess the water line was cut, so those trees never had a chance. I would strongly encourage, the same way I've talked about graffiti and shopping carts and so forth, if you're in a city truck and you drive by trees that are turning brown, could you let somebody know? Does it really have to be just one of the 9 of us? It just seems like you're driving right by it. You can't help but see it, and it's not a good look to have like 6, 7, 8 trees. Now, the list they gave me had 6. I think it's a lot more than that are dead up there. But in any case, they can, well, I don't know when I called that in, but I bet it's been a year, and they're still sitting out there dead. So I guess maybe we couldn't replace the trees. I hope we fixed the water line. For the ones on Greenway, I don't think they could have been there 6 months. So maybe I missed it. Maybe you said how long the warranties are. This has come up with streets in terms of actual streets too, where I think it's a year. Citizens complain they don't think the road is done right, and then yada, 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 and all of a sudden it's out of warranty. Now, I've also had it where it's been within warranty and the contractors had to go out and fix it. But I bet some of these trees, they were still within warranty when I complained. And then nothing was done, and now we're probably gonna have to pay for it. And there'll be fewer trees to put somewhere else. So I don't know how it's been with the rest of the guys, maybe, but I'm looking at my text. I went to the oldest one, September 1st, 2022. I know there are a ton more in there if I go look. You know, the person I was texting as former streets director is not here anymore, but I would appreciate some sort of rapid response if we're gonna spend this kind of money on this that we're doing. Otherwise, don't do it. If you came to my yard and planted a tree and then let it die, I'd look at that as blight, not some sort of favor. So, and then the list I have just on my phone right now is a lot of trees. So, yeah, the ones that are out there are great. They've definitely helped, so it kind of blends in, but we got to spend money for a positive, not a negative. So, we got to make sure the water lines are maintained. I hope you guys are checking those. And again, I don't know how somebody didn't notice, wow, that's a whole row of brand new trees that's turning brown. And then I mentioned it, nothing happened. So it's a little frustrating. So hopefully we'll do better, spend enough money on this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilwoman Pastor, and then I have a question related to what Councilman Waring said.
Hi. I'm just going to go down memory lane about trees. Since Waring and I are probably the veterans at this point, and the mayor. And I'm going to go down memory lane. I sat on, I can't even remember the committee, but Parks and Education and a bunch of things when I first got elected. And trees was on there. And what happened is Parks maintained all the trees in our city. And Parks decided, and what I thought then is happening now, Parks decided that they could no longer maintain all the trees in the city. So they decided that all those positions that were in Parks should be moved over to transportation because they felt maybe transportation had some knowledge on trees. The positions that were remaining there would be remaining for the parks and the areas of those areas, and they were going to split some duties. So these positions moved all the way to transportation. And so transportation assumed those positions. I was told then, we know what we're doing, we know, because I worried. Then it went into transportation. Then what happened is we started making the complaints and trees were dying. I worked with a group that worked with the contractors, and there is specific language that it is supposed to be in the contractor's language regarding preserving the tree, regarding metrics of how they were butchering the tree, really killing the tree, how they had to tell us where the water was cut or where there was lack of water, a number of things. And I'm not sure where that all that work that went into it. It was a multidiscipline work. Karen Peters was leading the charge at the time, and it was supposed to be written in the RFP and the contract. So I am now wanting to ask staff or the city manager to help me find all that information and see where the ball dropped, if it has dropped or it's continuing. But down central, there's a group of people since I've entered that has stated, please replace our trees, please replace our trees. Those trees haven't been replaced. It's been almost 20 years because light rail came in there, and none of those trees have been replaced. I do know that I did take a tour down that from McDowell all the way up to Camelback, and those people have now since retired to inventory that area and inventory where they need to put the water back. So I guess I'm putting the history down and putting it on record so that the future knows. But most importantly, we know what we're supposed to do. This inventory will help. I'm not sure I think we have more than 106,000 trees. So I don't know why it's only 106,000 trees. And I don't think 600,000 is going to get us to where we need to get to on the inventory. So I really want to make a bigger effort in looking at this and understanding that we do have we need shade, we need trees, we need people to engage, but how do we get our pieces together and really collaborate and make it happen so that you're not in front of us again and you're getting the same lecture of years and years of frustration. So I'm appreciative of really building this inventory because I had this conversation with Andula and saying, okay, we need to really know where our trees are. We really need to understand. We were working on that in the past. I'm not sure where it broke down. And he's like, yes, we're moving ahead on that. But you guys have a huge responsibility because you're hearing from all of us stating we're putting a lot of money in here and we're seeing them either die, wither away. Could be heat. I agree with you on the heat because my poor orange tree is dying. But how do we solve that? And so this will pass, but I think you have a bigger conversation and collective to discuss how do we maintain all of this. So thank you for what you have done, and thank you for listening to us, but you hear our frustration.
This item will include an assessment and inventory and some health tracking. We also have some new technology tools that we've been previously done. So will you just maybe give us a brief summary of how we're trying to learn and do better?
Mayor, member of the council, what this will do, so 2014, the original gave us a tree assessment. It also gave us places where trees were missing. So that allowed us to replant throughout that. What this will do is actually give us a new assessment. A lot of the work Dr. Hundula has done with LIDAR, and that is great, but it does not necessarily give us the health of the tree. It doesn't give us the health of the urban forest that the city manages. This will do that. The other part is the people who are planting the trees, the forestry section in parks, and the people in streets that are contractors, there will be an app where they'll actually be able to update the inventory at that time when a tree is removed because of a car accident or it has died and it has to be removed. They're able to actively update the inventory. Councilwoman Pastor, you were correct. That is an estimate. We lost our tree inventory access in 2019, and that's why we've been working to gain that back. And we've been planting trees, and Streets has, so this will give us a very good, accurate depiction of how many trees we have. So what it's going to do is it's going to give us kind of a starting point to be able to look at where we're at and then manage it. There's no additional cost to this. Under the previous one, there was a $8,000 a year maintenance fee. So we'll be able to maintain this in-house. It will be housed within the contractor's system, but we will have access to it.
Great. And then Councilman Waring suggested other city employees who are driving throughout the city maybe help us stay updated on the tree health. If
Correct.
a resident or a city employee sees a tree that needs some attention, what should they do?
Yes, and again, you can contact the council office, you can contact the streets department, you can contact parks. We work together. Again, streets maintains anything below 12 feet. So the newly planted trees are within the contractual responsibility of the street maintenance contractors. Anything over 12 feet belongs to the forestry section of the Parks Department because we have the aerial equipment to take care of that. But yeah, we work together. We're talking with streets. They reach out almost on a daily basis. We work with their hotshots, the storm response. All of that is done in conjunction with the streets department.
And maybe for streets, what is the best way to let the streets department know?
Mayor and council, we have a couple different ways. Obviously, we have a hotline that you can call and report things. We have a website, and then I believe My 311 also has the ability to take that information in.
Great. Okay, so we're trying to do better. We have quite a queue, but we'll go quickly back to Councilman Waring, then Councilman O'Brien, then Councilman Galindo Elvira, then Councilwoman Guardado. Thank you for your patience.
I'd lie to you and say I'm not trying to beat it to death. I'm kind of trying to beat it to death. I do have to take a little bit of issue, Scott. I mean, honestly, you just said call your council office. Well, I'm in the council office. First time I complained about the Thunderbird trees, May 1st, 2023. It's been a year and a half. What I can't do is have you guys put out there, oh, call the hotline, call your council office. So they call me and I can't get it done. I can't seem to get it done for myself. So what made me think this is going to be any different? And then I just look like a jerk. I can do that just by using my own personality. I don't need like intermediaries. So you didn't have to nod so vociferously said, I mean, it's all right. No, okay, I'll take it. But I mean, at some point, it actually needs to work like that, or I'd rather have you not plant the trees. So I'm sorry to get a little heated, but I mean, September 1st, 2022, May 1st, 2023, what would I tell a constituent? They'll give up. I've had these experiences. They're no fun because you just look like a dummy. I'm talking about me. I don't like that. So, I mean, we are going to actually go out and take care of this, right? I mean, it's got to be some kind of timely fashion. I get that some days are not as good to plant trees as others. As my father said, sometimes when the tree dies, it's the tree's fault. I understand that, but then we need to replace it and try to do it when it's under warranty if possible. Thank you. Sorry, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilwoman O'Brien and then Councilman Galindo Herrera.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to understand or make sure I understood what was said. If it's under 12 feet, streets handles it, no matter where it is?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman O'Brien, our forestry team, which is housed within the Parks Department, takes care of all trees in parks, and then trees that are in the medians or the public right-of-way with canopies that are 12 feet or higher are managed by a contract that's managed by the Streets Department.
So all the trees in the parks belong to the Parks Department.
Correct.
Everything under 12 feet along the streets and in the medians, and everything belongs to streets. Is that correct? Sorry, and over 12 feet everywhere belongs to parks.
Yes, that's correct, Councilwoman O'Brien, and it speaks to, I think, the comments from Councilwoman Pastor, when years ago there were efforts to try to allow the Parks Department to really focus on trees in parks, and that's when that shift occurred to move to contracting out some of those services of trees in the streets and right-of-ways.
Okay, and when we say streets department, we mean contracts that are managed by the streets department.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying all that. I'm going to tell you from the moment that we started talking about the tree and shade plan, especially the tree part of that plan, one of my concerns, and I support trees and shade, please don't anybody think otherwise. One of my concerns, though, is the operations and maintenance. And I don't know how long ago we started that plan, but I know that no one yet still can tell me what it costs to operate and maintain, or I shouldn't say operate, I guess maintain water. I guess there is operation to it. You got to water it and take care of it. No one has yet provided me a cost. So if we plant 10 trees, and we know there's a cost to that, no one can tell me, in order to keep these 10 trees alive for whatever their expected lifetime would be, this is what we should be adding to our budget. I'm looking out after Amber and Jeff, right? Because just like with streets, if we build streets, we know that from that point on, we have to operate and maintain them, and I'm assuming we know roughly what that costs on an annual basis so that we can add it into our budget. So I'm a little frustrated that we still don't have that number. I don't know why. So I'm going to ask for that number from all of you, or from one of you. It doesn't have to be all of you, but somebody could get back to us on that. I would appreciate that. How long will it take to make sure the inventory program is up to date with all of our trees?
Councilman O'Brien, members of City Council, they're estimating 6 to 9 months to complete the tree inventory once they receive the notice to proceed and everything's been approved.
Okay, and then I'd like to go back to a comment you made about the system that we're voting on right now. You said that it is the contractor's system that we will have access to. So I want to clarify. It will not be on it will not be a software program that's downloaded to the city's.
Councilwoman O'Brien, that is correct. That is what the previous tree inventory was the same.
And how long, are we going with the same?
No, ma'am, this is a change to a different company.
So we have not been in the old system. You said something about we've been cut out of that system since 2019.
Councilwoman O'Brien, we attempted to work with the previous vendor, but we were not able to resolve some issues with our contract that our law department helped us with. And ultimately, when we did resolve those issues, it was more than twice the price of this vendor, which was part of the factors that went into going forward with this vendor instead.
Well, I'm going to pray that no one up here at the dais throws anything at me or from you all, because what I'm going to say is I have concerns that we are, again, looking at contracting with a system that will have our information on it that we will not own. We will not actually own and control that system. So if this company, I guess I'm not going to make the statement, I'm going to ask the question. If this company goes belly up in a year and they shut down their system, where's my tree inventory?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilwoman O'Brien, members of the council, we would have access to that up until that point, which means we would then become responsible for updating it again ourselves.
Right, but where would you update it? Because we don't have the software program.
Correct. I believe that some of that, though, is downloadable information. So there is a system that lives with them, but we have access to download that into tracking, into not software, but documents that we would still have the data that we need, but we would become responsible for tracking it within the format that we download it. But that, I understand where you're going, and that is something we can certainly work with our ITS department on to see if there's an alternative way to move forward with it.
So we can download this information on a daily basis if we want, or monthly, or whatever y'all decide would be advantageous. Because I am concerned about doing all this work and ending up with nothing again and having to start over from scratch. So I would hope that we would ensure that there is policy on the city side, that we are downloading this in an appropriate timeframes, whatever y'all, weekly, monthly, so that we don't lose this information. And that I would also ask that we look at a system that we can have. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Glendo Elvira is next, but Councilman Pastor has software questions. So why don't you want to do that now? Okay, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. So the current tree mortality rate in Phoenix is 4.2%. Will the inventory be able to tell us what the city of Phoenix tree mortality rate is at the conclusion of the study?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilman Galinda Elvira, they will be able to tell us that moving forward. So they will be able to, we'll get our baseline information, if you will, and then once that tracking begins, we'll absolutely be able to see what that mortality rate is based on the information that's being uploaded and monitored. So yes.
And will they also be able to, within our inventory, specify or tell us what type of trees have the best survivability rate? Whether it's regionally within the city of Phoenix or overall?
Councilman Galinda Elvira, that's a great question. And so with that data, we'll be able to run reports and to get exactly that type of information. We have some information on tree survival, I think, in our environment now, but that'll help drill down more on that.
And so we've talked a lot about trees, but what about the ground? The dirt, the soil? If it's not adequate to meet the needs to pair with the tree, will we be able to track that to know maybe that's not a good area to have tree planting to alleviate some of the concerns expressed by members of the council?
Yes, Councilman, we envision being able to note, to put notes in the system that comment, and we do that all the time now. We identify areas that where trees haven't been successful. We also have areas in parks, to your point, especially over at Hans Park, where soil depths are an issue. So those are things that we'll be able to put notes in and see that.
Excellent, thank you.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. So as everyone knows, I'm a huge advocate when it comes to trees. I think in District 5, we've done hundreds and hundreds of trees already. But I guess my question, Cynthia, to you is, I mean, we're talking about all this data, all this information that we're gonna get and know where we can plant trees, where the trees are dead. But, you know, we say we contract out some of these contracts, but who is gonna maintain all this new information? Like how many people do we have to go take out a dead tree so it doesn't take 3 years before we get to it? You know, how do we maintain those trees? How do we make sure that we have enough water? Like who does all that work? Because it's great to have this contract and I'm supportive of the contract, but who's gonna go out and do, you know, I mean, the manpower? Do we have enough manpower to really maintain? Because I know that we've planted thousands of trees at this point for the last couple of years, and to me it sounds like it's more a manpower issue that we have. I don't want to speak for you or for anyone else up there, but what is the real issue?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Guardado, that's also a great question. We have limited resources, which is, you know, what contributes to some of the challenges in terms of maintenance of trees. Scott oversees our forestry team. With the mayor and city council support, you all have helped us restore the number of forestry teams or units within that division to help us. But as we continue to grow, we will continue to need to submit supplemental requests to ask for additional teams to maintain our urban growing forests. So we have what we need now, and that's something that we'll continue to work towards and coming up with a model, if you will, that once we hit a next threshold of the number of trees in the urban forest, that's going to be the tipping point where we need to ask for another team, which is 5 different types of positions, really, of urban forestry techs and equipment operators that go out, that many of you have seen, are responsible for planting and maintaining these trees. So within the park system and the trees that we're responsible for, we currently have forestry teams, we have gardener sprinkler, assigned positions that all play a role in the maintenance and survival of these trees. I know I don't want to speak for streets totally, but they have contractors that perform similar duties for the trees that they're responsible for. But staffing levels is critical, and that'll be something we have to monitor and determine when we need to seek additional positions on our team to properly maintain those.
And I guess that's also a question for you, Brady. How often do we get reports from these companies? Do we need more people in the streets department as well?
Mayor and council, that's a great question. And while I'm not an expert in this area yet, we are working through what that looks like. We do have a small team that we deploy to go out and look at these things and report back what they see. And then we're working with our vendor to then go and replace the trees in the right planting time. So it's definitely something I'll look at more closely to see what we can get from a reporting perspective from them.
Thank you. Well, again, I think you guys are doing an amazing job. I think it's hard for you guys to do your job, to our standards, right? And to do what we ask you guys to do when you guys don't have enough staffing to be able to get the work done. But I thank you guys for all of the work that you guys do. Jeff, I think that, we need to talk to Amber and figure out how do we, and I know we have a lot of shortages coming up with our budget, and there's very difficult conversations that are going to be coming up in this new year in terms of how do we maintain our budget. But as we continue to plant more trees and we want to maintain them, we do have to figure out how do we add in more money in the budget, or what is it that we need to do as a council to be able to continue to provide this amazing service that our neighborhoods have been asking for. At least in District 5, I think it's been very helpful to continue to plant trees to deal with all of the heat islands that we have in the west side. And I know there's a lot of other districts that have this issue. So I do think that would also be a good idea to maybe even consolidate this in just one department, just because I think it's crazy that it's being ran in 3 different or maybe even 4 different departments on how we maintain trees. So I would recommend that in the future we have a conversation just about that, and how is it that we become more efficient. I agree with my colleagues that we're going to be spending this type of money to continue to plant trees. We got to be efficient, and I'm supportive of this item, but I think we need a bigger conversation in terms of how do we maintain them? What do we need to do to deal with all the frustrations that everyone is talking about here? But I think that it's more of a budget issue, and I know the money's not there, so we just have to figure out a different way on how we get that money to continue to run these programs. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Just to be clear, what you're suggesting, you're fine if the Parks Department runs parks trees and the Streets Department does trees in the streets, but for our residents, we want one place they could go for.
Yeah, they should have a place where they can.
Right, because it's not realistic. Yeah. Is that a 12-foot tree or a 11-foot tree?
I mean, I'm today now learning who maintains what trees, because sometimes I'm calling Cynthia, sometimes I'm calling Brady, sometimes I'm calling Lori, I'm calling different Dr. Handula. I'm like, okay, who should be really in charge of really maintaining all of our trees? And at some point, we should come up with a plan on how do we do that.
All right, for those who couldn't hear him, Councilman Galindo Elvira suggested a tree czar. But we're laughing, but I do think for our residents, having one place to go for trees, and that person can be knowledgeable about who manages which contract. But I think that'll make life easier. We are passionate about trees here, and it's one of the top requests we do get from our residents. It's a way they feel they can make their communities more comfortable, enhance property values, and we've been pretty ambitious. This is the first city in the country to sign American Forest Tree Equity Pledge, saying that we want to plant trees in the areas of our city that need it most. We're really national leaders on this, and today will be an important vote going forward. The Shade Master Plan, which we unanimously approved, was an important vote. So we're using technology as well as investing in more trees, and that's a great success for our community, but we're going to keep learning. I think Councilwoman Pastor had a software question.
I have two questions. One, will you be documenting the dead trees currently?
Council, or members of the council, yes, we can request that the vendor, when they go out and do the inventory, will document dead trees or missing trees.
So as starting when we start the contract as
Yes,
today?
ma'am. And we have been tracking tree loss this year because part of the Shade Phoenix plan is to replace all trees that are lost in parks and an additional 20% on top of that. So that's part of the Shade Phoenix plan. So yes, we do track tree loss. As part of the Tree City USA, we track tree loss in streets and parks and have to report that information.
Okay, because I heard you say in parks we're tracking it. Now I'm going to Brandy to say, what are we tracking in the other side of the world?
Yes, Mayor and Council. Yes, we are tracking that as well.
So are you then using the same software and tracking, or it's two silo pieces?
Councilwoman Pastor, we track the tree loss. The information is then given us, and we are giving that to Laura Martins, who is essentially the tree czar.
Czar, yeah.
Scott, are you sure you're not the tree czar?
No, I am not. And when this inventory is completed, the tree inventory will move under Laura Martins with Dr. Handula in Dr. Handula's office. And so she will be the manager, and we will be, streets and parks will be supplying information and data to her on tree plantings and tree loss. So yes, we are tracking that, and Gungdin, the forestry supervisor, collects that information from parks. And I don't know if Eric is giving that to streets or he gives it to Gung. And then we supply that to Laura Martins as part of the Tree City USA data that is collected.
So it is then being centralized. That's what it sounds like.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My second question is really about the software. Are we purchasing the software, or are we purchasing the use of the software? How does this work?
The contractor has the software already. So we would utilize their software. We would input our data through a website into their software.
Okay. So I'm going to agree with Councilwoman O'Brien. I have issues with that. And the reason why I have issues with that is that that is our material or our information that we're giving, or we're using a contractor's software. And just like it happened in the past, when we no longer are in line with the contractor, or the contract has expired and it's too expensive to renew it, we no longer have the data. We should somehow figure out through our IT or programming to program a software that is our software to be able then to enter our own data and have the rights to it. So I don't know if that's possible, but you're asking us to vote on this today, and I'm saying, can we look at this and see if it's better off doing our own stuff?
Mayor, members of the council, I think what staff is describing is that we have a use license with a vendor that provides a software service to us that we have the opportunity to download data out of. What I can do is we can work with IT to see if there's a way for us to replicate some sort of a database or some sort of system that has some sort of an interface with the software that is being utilized by the vendor, so that we then have that information if we do part ways or that company goes out of business. But we'll have IT work and take a look at that and see what we have. We also, as you know, we're exploring an asset management system for our citywide inventory of assets. To me, the way I hear you passionately talking about trees, it's another one of our assets. So there may be an opportunity for us to incorporate some of this information into that as well. But we'll explore what the options are.
So we're going to explore, we'll pass this and you'll explore because I want to be able to have this data.
Correct. I
Okay.
think you can pass this knowing that we have to start somewhere, and that's what this really is.
Okay.
It's giving us that baseline and the opportunity to inventory what we have. But at the same time, we will work with our internal IT department to see what a solution could be for us, that if that day comes when we want to separate, how can we make sure that we're not left without the data that we need?
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we want to be able to download it in a form we can still use if this software is not available. And just to go back to the earlier comment, I think our tree administrator in the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation already has a very full job, so I'm not sure she should be the one dispatching different maintenance depending on where it is and helping track trees. But I think we want there to be just one place for our residents and city employees who are not directly responsible for trees to go to help us maintain this important asset. For folks who are watching and wondering why we're spending so much time on this, we have an ambitious goal to plant 27,000 trees in the next 5 years. We unanimously approved a shade plan that includes tens of millions of dollars in investment. So it's good that we're paying attention and making sure we do the best possible job with your assets. We have heard from our residents. They would like us to do what we can to make the city more comfortable, particularly in hotter times, and trees are a really important tool in addition to helping with property values and creating safer places. So a little bit of context on that. I think we are ready for roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
And I'm sorry, I should have noted Mike Norton was available to speak if necessary on that item. Thank you for being available to speak if necessary. What is it? Next is,
57.
all right. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
I move to approve item 57.
Second.
Excellent. So 57 is our intergovernmental agreement with the City of Tempe. This morning, Tempe Mayor Corey Woods delivered his State of the City address. He announced that the Tempe City Council had unanimously approved an agreement with the city to end our legal conflict over the residential development within Sky Harbor's airspace. Sky Harbor is our top economic engine in the city and state, contributing $44 billion to our economy every single year. We have long had an intergovernmental agreement with Tempe since 1994 to protect Sky Harbor and to make sure we safeguard Tempe residents impacted by noise and overflights. As some of you may be aware, we've had different interpretations over the terms in this agreement. We were considering legal action, and I am thrilled that we have avoided that. I am proud to report that thanks to good faith negotiations, we have a compromise between our cities. I want to thank Mayor Woods, who spent a lot of time meeting with me and working on this. But our real heroes on this are City Manager Jeff Barton and Aviation Director Chad Makowski with our great legal team. Thank you to our Tempe City Manager, as well as Phoenix Aviation Advisory Board and member Andrew Cohn, and to my colleagues who spent a lot of time on this. I want to thank everyone who stepped in to reach an agreement. This agreement, which is being memorialized as a formal amendment to the original IGA, will ensure that our incredible airport will continue to improve passenger experience through significant capital investments, expanded travel options, and growth that will benefit all of us. We're also working very hard to protect Tempe residents, particularly new residents in development that hasn't happened, who might be surprised by noise impacts. So, Jeff, you spent a lot of time on this with Chad. Do you want to say any words?
Mayor, I couldn't say it much better than what you've already said. The only thing I would add is, again, this has been a very long process, as you know. I want to thank you and the council for your patience as we've negotiated this, because it wasn't easy. As you know, we've had many bites at the apple. But I think where we landed because of Chad's diligence and the hard work of his team and the creativity of his team, we positioned ourselves in a position where the city of Phoenix and Tempe are both protected, and we've protected that economic engine that you talked about, which is the Sky Harbor Airport. So again, I just want to thank everyone for their involvement, and I think we are in a better place today and will be in the future as a result of this IGA.
Wonderful. And Chad, could you wave? Could we do a round of applause for Chad and Jeff? And again, thank you to our legal team. Any additional comments? Councilwoman O'Brien, then Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
I actually wish we would make Chad come up to the table so we could see him, because this was not for the faint of heart. And I think that it is, I had an opportunity to be with some other elected officials recently, and they found it quite surprising that Phoenix owns their airport. So this is a jewel in our city. It's an economic engine, and to protect it was paramount, not just for the airport itself, but for the entire city. And it is also one of the few places where you can fly in and then be in our city. You don't have to drive 30 or 45 or 60 minutes to get where you're going. That's unique, as I've traveled a little bit more recently than I might have liked. So thank you so much to city management, Jeff and Chad and Julie and the mayor as well, to our counterparts in Tempe who approved this IGA recently. I'm so grateful we didn't have to go down the legal route as well, but it cannot be said enough that Chad really did a lot of work on this, as well as City Manager Barton, and we very much are in debt to you. So thank you for all that work.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to echo gratitude to everyone involved in this process. Thank you to Jeff. Thank you to Chad. Thank you to Julie. Thank you to everyone who's involved. As we all know, the Sky Harbor Airport is an important part of what makes the city and the state tick, and you guys do a very good job to ensure that we continue to have a first-class experience. I'm grateful to see that we were able to resolve this shy of litigation. It shows that despite when there are disputes, we are able to sit down and actually come up with practical solutions. I'm grateful to see that this allows us to continue to further and expand our airport while ensuring proper development surrounds us. So it's a win-win, and I just also wanted to express my gratitude to everyone involved, especially the legal team. You guys don't get a lot of shout-outs, but you guys did a phenomenal job on this one, so thank you.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor, as well. Thank you so much, Chad. I think our airport is in great hands with you, just the way that you handled the situation and everything that you did, and the briefings and all the work that you did. I think our airport is in great hands with you, and I love to see how much you love the airport, and it is our economic engine here in the city of Phoenix. So I'm grateful to you for all of your hard work that you did on that project. Also, I think it's a dynamic duo between you and Jeff. Jeff, thank you again as well for all of your hard work as well. Our city is in great hands with you, and our airport is in great hands with you, Chad. So thank you guys so much for everything that you guys did. Thank you.
Councilwoman Pastor.
I'm just going to say another shout out to Phoenix and our strong team. So thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Oh, we do have Diane Barker.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and to District 7. I'm Diane Barker. I live in this area, have been in the Valley 3 decades. I'm glad to see that the Law Department is making a settlement. I do so see that everybody's excited about protecting an economic treasure. I was a navigator at the airport, and so I am to know about it. However, I'm looking at the future, and I was at MAG where our mayor was there, and I know she's a sustainability, and I want to bring this up to you. The north runway sits on polluted groundwater. The EPA was down here last month, and they're cleaning up 3 decades of litigation to clean the plume from the semiconductor spill that's happened, and it goes all the way from McDowell down to like about Buckeye, clear way over to 7th Avenue. Right now, I agree with the mayor, you know, it's not groundwater, it's not surface, so we're drinking probably fairly safe water. But we have to look in the future. Also, the EPA is looking at
And
ozone.
Diane, if you could connect this to airport noise, that would be fabulous.
Okay, yeah, I'll put that, the pollution. Thank you. Because when I came here in the 70s, my father had been a pilot and Air Force. And he said, you know, Tempe is complaining about the noise. The airport was there before the people. So to that point, Mayor, is that Tempe, and so we don't have even more litigation, the people that are going to be buying the residences or the apartments need to have a disclaimer that there is noise. They live next to that, and I'd like to see that we clean up our pollution.
Thank you so much. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Both councils, Tempe and Phoenix, have unanimously approved our agreement to protect our cities and Sky Harbor. Congratulations. We next move to District 3, to item 73, which is 13th Place and Cinnabar. Vice Mayor.
I move to approve the application and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have one comment from Julia Taggart.
Thank you, City Council. This has been 45 years in the making. Marion Blake is the current owner of the Rock Garden. She owned it in 1980. In 1979, there was a survey done and the city said it could have been possibly eligible, but parts of it were not 50 years old at the time. So for the past 45 years, she has been collecting petition signatures. You guys actually have 200 pages of signatures in your files to try and get it historic status. I met her last January and we started the process and the forms. And now finally, with this meeting and your approval, it will be historic. It turns 70 years old this year. It was built in 1954 by Grover Cleveland Thompson. He was inspired by the Peterson Rock Garden in Oregon. The city of Phoenix used to have many rock gardens. They were a folk art environment. Instead of having a grass lawn, you would have a very beautiful display of art and rock and tile, whatever you would want to design. As of now, we only have 2 left. The other one does not want to get historic status at this point, so this will be the only one in the city with historic status. We are also going to try for the National Register. We put in our application, and if we do get on the National Register, we are the only one in the state on the National Register as well. So if Marion had not bought it and tried for the past 45 years to get it historic status, I do not think we would have it anymore. She's tried for the past 45 years, and now she finally has it. I know January 1st is going to be a big celebration with the community. You are all invited to just celebrate the Rock Garden and celebrate Grover's birthday and this big accomplishment for the city of Phoenix. I know I sent in all the information for you guys to read about it. So just thank you guys for approving this and for reading about the garden. I know it means a lot to Marion. It means a lot to Sunny Slope. It means a lot to me to finally have this done after 45 years of waiting. And thank you, Marion, for trusting a 24-year-old to say that they would get you historic status after 45 years. Thank you.
Mayor, I just want to thank Julie for all her hard work on this project. It is quite a delight in Sunny Slope, and now she's helping me with Thunderbird High School. We're going to try to make the T historic.
Julia and Vice Mayor, congratulations to both of you. And when Julia speaks, I often learn something new, as I did today. So thank you. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Save our history, yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring. Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next go to item 75 related to the downtown code. Thank you to the planning department on this and our partners at DPI and PCA for the very hard work to get where we are today. And I believe we do, let me just check if we have a staff report on this one. We have a short staff presentation on this one, so I will welcome our Planning and Development Director, Josh Bednarik.
Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. With me today is Tricia Gomes, our Deputy Director over Planning and Zoning. I want to give Tricia and Chris DePero a lot of credit for this effort. Appreciate the support from PCA and DPI. Tricia can go quickly through an overview of the text amendment, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So yes, item 75 is Z-TA-5-22-4-7-8, a request to amend Chapter 12, the Downtown Code, and to clarify and amend various sections of the Phoenix zoning ordinance to clarify how other sections interact with Chapter 12. Changes to the Downtown Code were done in partnership, as Mr. Bednarik mentioned, Phoenix Community Alliance and Downtown Phoenix, Inc., to streamline the development process within the Downtown Code, such as clarifying the design review and appeal processes, enhance frontage elements for new uses and autonomous vehicles, for example, grand entry and passenger loading zones, strengthen requirements for active and shaded street frontages, and promote utilization of art in private development. There was a significant stakeholder input over a 2-year period in collaboration with PCA, Downtown Voices, the Design Standards Committee, the Encanto and Central City Village Planning Committees. And with that, the Encanto Village Planning Committee recommended approval per the staff recommendation by a vote of 9-1, and the Central City Village Planning Committee recommended approval per the staff recommendation by a vote of 12-0. The Planning Commission recommended approval per the staff recommendation in Addendum A by a vote of 9-0. And staff recommends approval per the memo dated November 27th from the PDD Director and adopt the related ordinance. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Jokes about trees and shade in this component? All right. We'll open the public hearing. We have Patrick here to speak on this item, and then Ed Bull and Madison available to speak if necessary.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego. Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego, Vice Mayor Stark, and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Patrick McDaniel. I'm the Advocacy Director for Phoenix Community Alliance. I'm here today speaking on behalf of our Board of Directors, our Central City Planning and Development Committee, our Multimodal Connectivity Committee, as well as our Arts, Culture, and Public Life Committee. I would just really like to reiterate and express our full support for the changes that are outlined to the Chapter 12 text amendments. It's been 14 years since the original Downtown Code was implemented. A lot's happened in those 14 years. We're looking at an increase in residents that's increasing every year. We're looking at, we have increased transit options for downtown. We have a retail base that's becoming increasingly strong year after year. And we also have thriving institutions of higher education. As downtown changes, so too must the codes that govern it. These proposed changes, which may seem kind of minor, really help to streamline the development process. For example, changes to loading and unloading zones can lead to less traffic. Clarifications about frontage and landscape can lead to a better pedestrian experience. Changes to appeals process, a revised appeals process, lead to less difficulties in development and ultimately better development in downtown. So, once again, these may seem like minor things, but these are small changes that radiate outwards and have a big impact on our daily experience in downtown. I'd really like to express our thanks and gratitude to Director Bednarik and his staff, especially Chris DePero, for meeting with our working groups multiple times as we discussed these impacts with a group of seasoned development professionals. And also, thank you for including language that includes art and private development. It's small things like this that make a downtown a place that people want to come to and a place that ultimately will attract the best and brightest of Phoenix. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you for these changes. These will definitely help make our downtown a better place for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed and Madison, are we good? Excellent. Great speech. We'll close the public hearing. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I'm very excited about this because I was the planning director when we originally approved the downtown code. I move to approve per the November 27th, 2024 memo from the Planning and Development Director and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yeah.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
We next have 3 related items. We will have 1 public hearing and then 3 votes. We will understand that we don't have any opening comments, so I'm going to open the public hearing. We will begin with Geraldine, followed by Suzanne, followed by Jim. And Geraldine is, okay, Geraldine is here. Is that right? If you are Geraldine, could you wave? Geraldine had to leave, thank you. Okay, Geraldine was in support. Suzanne is next in opposition, followed by Jim Farley in support. Okay, if you are Suzanne, could you wave? Suzanne, okay, thank you.
Thanks. Mayor and members of the commission. Last year, this change from residential zoning to commercial zoning was not passed by the Desert View Planning Committee, and so it was sent to the Planning Commission, and they did not vote on it. They sent it back to Vestar, the Desert Ridge developer, to come back with a plan for this year. And during that time, they scheduled the meeting again with Desert View Planning Committee during fall break. And I think because it was sent back, a lot of the community lost hope because the majority did not want this zone change from residential. That's the history. In this intersection where this zone change they're asking, there's 3 communities. There's Sky Crossing, Aviano, and Fireside. And some of those communities have very small lots. So putting commercial there will degrade the property values. Right now it has a Scottsdale, North Phoenix atmosphere, and I'm afraid with a commercial right there, it's going to make it more city-like. Also at this intersection, it's right where the 51 exits and enters onto Black Mountain Boulevard, and then the very first major street which is at the intersection, is Deer Valley. So you've got huge congestion, a bottleneck there, and you've got the high school, which is the first, Pinnacle High School, which is the first driveway. And I think when the 51 was decided to exit there, they were promised a bigger parking lot, but it doesn't exist. So right now, you've got 2,700 students, 700 are new drivers, 2,000 are parents picking up their children. It's a huge, I need to stop, right? That's huge traffic congestion and potential crime with a shopping center there right bordering the high school.
Thank you. Next we have Jim, followed by Eileen.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Jim Farley, a resident of Sky Crossing, adjacent to the proposed shopping center. First thing I want to say is if you look at just all the attachments and the letters attached to this, it gives the impression that there's overwhelming community opposition to this, but all those letters were written in 2023 before Vestar made some important changes to this plan. So if you were at the Village Planning Committee, you would know that there's actually overwhelming community support for this shopping center. My wife Patty and I are very much in favor. The center is needed and will be an enhancement to the community of Sky Crossing. The current closest shopping center is Desert Ridge Marketplace. It is already at capacity and will only get worse with the new homes currently being built nearby. Anyone who goes there on a weekend afternoon, especially during the holidays, especially after the snowbirds are back, experiences just how crowded it is. As to the opposition due to traffic, frankly, traffic is coming to this intersection, whether this is built or not. Black Mountain and Deer Valley are major arterials that are eventually being expanded to the north and to the east. North Phoenix is growing. It's just a fact. There will be traffic. While this shopping center in our neighborhood will enhance our quality of life, more homes will not. Please approve it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen is next, followed by Nathan.
My wife Eileen is a little shy, so
I'm
we're
sorry?
both going to talk, 2 for 1. Either way, we've been living in Sky Crossing for 3 years. We find this.
Can you stand closer to the mic, sir, so we can hear you? Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. We've been living in Sky Crossing for the last 3 years, and we've been following the Vestar project for the last 2 years. At first, we did have questions about it. We were concerned about a gas station. We were concerned about the size of the supermarket. After talking with Vestar, we were most impressed that they listened to the community. They had a number of meetings with all the residents of the 3 subdivisions, and they made changes. They got rid of the gas stations. They got the smaller supermarket. They're putting in traffic control. They're going to have school guards during school. I think they're a good company. I think they're doing the right thing. It will enhance the value of our homes. And driving to Desert Ridge, although 2 miles away, traffic is horrendous. This way we can walk across the street and do our shopping. So I hope you will pass this unanimously.
Okay, and we live about a 5-minute, 10-minute walk to this shopping center, and we really, really want it. In the beginning, we were very skeptical. We asked certain things to be changed. They listened, and they actually changed it, which we were so surprised. So I think Vestar has done an excellent job, and we really look forward to the shopping center. I do think it will increase our property values. It'll make it more walkable, and I think it'll just be an asset to our community. So we hope it passes.
Okay. Thank you.
That's both of us.
Yeah.
She didn't seem that shy to me, Mayor. Just an observation, I guess.
And is that all are in person? So we'll go to virtual comment. We'll start with Kim Otis, followed by Trent Otis. But if you could break between speeches, that would be very helpful to us running. So it's 2 minutes each, not 4 minutes combined. Thanks.
Hello, thank you to the City of Phoenix, Mayor and Vice Mayor, for letting me speak today. I will be very quick with this. I've lived in this area. I'm a native from Phoenix. I've lived in this area for 17 years, and we actually moved to the Fireside development 3 years ago due to the proximity of schools. The schools in this area, if you guys aren't aware, do not provide buses. We are responsible as parents to get our children there via bike, walking, and all of those means. The property that Vestar is looking for is one that is going to make them money due to the proximity of the SR 51. Excuse me as I get nerves through this. I do believe that Vestar is become our Goliath case. This is David versus Goliath. They have $1.82.4 million in revenue and $159.3 million in funding. We do not have that as residents of this community. We did bring our opposition last time. They were not successful in their plan, so they came at it at a different approach. They speak of working with community, but I would actually have to disagree with that. I have several examples of misleading conduct. On September 23rd, 2024, a post on a Desert Ridge Facebook page with the link for gblaw.com to sign a support submission stated the following: if we're lucky, it will be a Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. This is your last chance to choose between a grocery shopping center or more apartments. So that was one falsehood that was stated. There was additional ads in Facebook that I actually commented on that were additional falsehoods. But before I get too long-winded, I spoke with the PV district and the Pinnacle High School. The last representative implied that you do have support from them, and that was actually not true. I'll quickly try to quote this. Even with the, they said, we have met with the development group and shared concerns. At this point, the developer has not addressed or mitigated our concerns. I must clarify, though, PV District and the Pinnacle principal are neutral on this topic. They cannot say whether support or oppose, which was implied in the last meeting in November 7th. And I'll go quick. The last thing I'd like to say is this is not a desolate area. We are rich with amenities. We have several options.
I'm sorry. We're just,
okay,
I can't.
That's okay.
We'll go to Travis. I'm sorry, Trent is next.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Trent Otis. I live in the community, obviously in the Fireside community. We have 2 kids that go to school at the Fireside Elementary and Explorer Middle School that will be going to Pinnacle High School. They walk and ride their bikes. I would also like to say that from this position, I'm also a Phoenix Fire Captain. So I come at this from a completely different angle, and this is all based on safety. As you guys know, when we work in the fire service, we work on risk mitigation. And this is all about risk reduction and mitigation. There's going to be higher traffic, higher volume of people going and walking through this intersection. This is going to be a place where high school kids and junior high kids congregate, which only increases the risk for pedestrian versus vehicle accidents, as well as more semis coming through the neighborhood for unloading. So this is we're definitely in opposition for this. This fire station at this intersection of Tatum and Deer Valley, Fire Station 52. They're able to service this area, but adding more commercial to this intersection, we're going to see an uptick in usage from that fire station, and an uptick in call volume means that the fire station, the fire trucks will not be available when other residents need them. Lastly, when we put commercial there, everybody keeps talking about convenience. This area is built for community, not convenience. We have Desert Ridge right there next to us. And I think that when we look at, it's not an if, but it's a when, that we have a pedestrian versus motor vehicle accident at this intersection. The crosswalks, although they say that they're going to be, working with the schools to provide proper crosswalks, it's not going to be substantial enough. Lastly, when we go on scene of a pedestrian trauma accident, we're asked to have that patient loaded into the ambulance within 10 minutes. And so really the only convenience that the community is going to have is that if they live in that area, they're going to be able to see their loved one on scene before they have to be rushed off to the hospital. That's the only convenience that I see for this area.
Thank you so much for your service. We'll go to Wooter next, followed by Stephen.
Hello, my name is Wouter Rudenberg, and I'm a resident of 17 years in Fireside, Desert Ridge, and I have 2 boys at the high school. I'm opposing the Back Mountain Boulevard commercial rezoning proposal before you, and I would like to start to point out that to the City Council that this parcel is currently zoned residential, and residential builders already have shown interest in the remaining part of this parcel. The Desert Ridge Master Plan specifically outlines a main commercial center, which is the Desert Ridge Marketplace, and specifically outlines a limit to other commercial sites to 3 acres, and also specifies C1 zoning with 10 activity types, and it doesn't allow drive-throughs. However, people have bought their homes based on this plan, and the proposed site from Vestar is only 15 acres, is more than 3 acres, as 15 acres, and is requesting C2 zoning, which allows 200 types of activities and will promote drive-throughs. So quite the opposite. And the main problem is that Vestar would like to build that commercial center with drive-throughs next to our high school and also in proximity of our elementary school. And the reasoning was that Desert Ridge has only one grocery store and too much traffic in the area. But apparently Target and Whole Foods in nearby City North are not considered a grocery store. They also outlined the explosive and continued growth in the area. And my question is, wouldn't that warrant the development of another marketplace of 100 acres, not just 15 acres? I've sent the districts an email earlier today that provides more insight and background on this case. And as mentioned, the Village Planning Committee voted 9-1 back in October, but somehow Vestar got a second chance, which caused our opposition to fizzle out due to the constant delay strategy applied. The main question in my email is for the City Council to take a wider view regarding the exponential growth occurring in Desert Ridge, and I compel the Council to not approve this isolated proposal at this meeting, mainly because it seems like misleading information has been provided or critical information has omitted during the application, as there are in fact few new grocery stores planned in City North, and traffic issues will not be resolved due to the 800 new apartments and additional 3,000 in City North. These facts were never shared with the committees or considered. Because of this situation, I'd like the Council to consider this and delay the vote, and ideally commission a deeper review of this proposal and have committees consider all the active proposed developments in Desert Ridge to determine the actual need for this commercial center, determine the best location.
Thank you. Stephen will be our final speaker.
Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. I'll try to make this as brief as I can. I had retail put relatively close to my high school in Northern California in the 1980s, and I can attest as a student, now viewing through the lens of a parent. And just to disclose, my children are in college. They've never set foot in Arizona. But my wife and I do live here, and we are very concerned about the community. And we had retail, like I said, put right next to our high school, and it absolutely increased. We had 3 accidents where no one died, thankfully, but 3 of my classmates had to go to the hospital. And it absolutely, I can attest, was counterproductive to learning, not necessarily for every student in the class, but through the vast majority of students. There's no doubt that the retail going on high school students and perhaps even the older elementary school students. I understand why Vestar sees this parcel as prime and given its proximity to the 51. I'm not anti-growth. I want thoughtful, responsible growth. And we need more infrastructure given the number of residents in the area. I love being within a mile of Desert Ridge Marketplace, and it's a net positive for the community, despite some of those negatives. However, this particular parcel of land, I think, should not be used for commercial use. And I understand reluctance to have more houses there, but I think there are other non-commercial public uses that would benefit the school and the community over commercial. We have lots of other land nearby, including a super block between Fireside and Aviano and the Desert Ridge Mall. I don't want more traffic in our area, but it's going to come. We all know that. I don't want necessarily every open area developed, but that super block is enormous. And we also have a lot of land north of Pinnacle Peak. Now, I don't know who owns that land and whether it's planned for development near term, but it seems like locations like these are much safer and open to planning that would not place commercial right next to a school. So I have to oppose this, even though I do think it probably will increase the retail value of my home, because I just don't think it's safe for the children of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Close the public hearing, and I'll turn to Councilman Waring.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion on item 76. Thank you. I'd like a motion to approve for the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related resolution.
Second.
Excellent. Any comments? Roll call.
Galindo Elvira.
Yes.
Guardado. Yes. Hodge Washington.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Item 77, Councilman Waring, do you have a motion?
I do. Motion to approve per the December 3rd, 2024 memo from the PDD Director, and adopt the related ordinance.
Second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
78.
Motion to approve for the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance.
Second. Roll call.
Galindo Elvira,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
Hodge Washington,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pastor,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Waring, Stark,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you. A lot of people spent an enormous amount of time on this item, including Councilman Waring, so we so appreciate your participation in the process. We'll go to our final agendized item, item 79, and I'll turn to Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier today, the applicant noted their desire to withdraw this item with the intent to amend to address the outstanding concerns. So in line with that request, I move to approve the withdrawal of Z5824A from the agenda to amend and address the following items: traffic, density, drainage, and character of the area, including the Rio Montana plan. The applicant shall present any changes to the proposal to the South Mountain Village Planning Committee for recommendations. At that time, the case will be re-advertised for a future formal meeting on a date to be determined.
Second.
Some comments, ma'am?
Please.
Thank you. I wanted to start off by saying I wanted to thank everyone that was involved and actively involved in this process. Community engagement is the heart of what we do, and it's always my priority to ensure that the residents' voices are heard, respected, and valued. I always say a good compromise is never one-sided. It requires genuine collaboration where both sides give and take. I want to commend the applicant for acknowledging that there is more that can and should be done in this situation. I believe that development in District 8 must reflect not only the vision of the applicant, but also the needs and concerns of the community it will impact. So I really want to say thank you to the applicant for his acknowledgement and the community that there is more that can be done. And I hope that this would give them an opportunity to amend and address those needs.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have only two folks registered to speak, Jewel and Jay. Hearing the Councilwoman's motion, do you still wish to speak? Okay. So no one wishes to speak hearing the motion. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilwoman's been, again, spent a lot of time on this one. Any additional, and did we have a second?
Second.
Any additional comments? And all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. That concludes our agendized business. We'll turn to the city attorney to introduce the final portion.
Thank you, Mayor. During citizen comment, members of the public may address the City Council for up to 3 minutes on issues of interest or concern to them. The citizen comment session is limited to 30 minutes. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments, but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented.
Thank you. We'll begin with Christina Tyler, followed by Missy Pruitt.
So the reason why I came here today was to talk about the disability discrimination and
Could you adjust the microphone so we could better hear you? Thank you.
I'm sorry. So I'm here to discuss the disability discrimination that I faced working for Allied Universal at TSMC. Those contracts were set up in a way to be able to allow TSMC to get rid of any person for any given reason at any given time. My employer, as well as my supervisors, human resources, was aware of the disabilities that I have. They were also aware of my treating physician's information in case there was any issues or discrepancy. TSMC, because of the way the contracts are set up, decided to remove me from the location due to the appearance of sleeping, even though the other individuals there knew of my accommodations. I had accommodations to sit and stand, and I am being treated for a prolactinoma currently. At the time, my doctor was trying to figure out if we needed to put me back on cabergoline or not. I was being treated as well for high blood pressure and put on lisinopril. I was also being treated for neurological bladder issue because my type of autism causes a full-blown connective tissue disorder, which made it to where I'd been unable to control my bladder until I was put on oxybutynin. And so the thing is that my appearance of sleeping, not the actual facts, not the fact that my head was a bobblehead, which is why, and with no EAP, no medical response, TSMC ordered for Allied Universal to have me removed from this job site. What I am wondering is why the city of Phoenix chooses to not have policies and ordinances in place, like what the city of Scottsdale has done, to protect those who are contracted parties at a job site like a over $6 billion contract, which was just added or approved from different departments. Why are you guys allowing the discrimination to happen? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Missy is next, followed by Diane.
Whoop. Got a little overzealous there. Hi, Mayor. Hi, City Council. District 8. I live in District 8. So my name is Missy Pruitt. I've been here the last couple months, and I'm just gonna, this will be my last time before I try to set some sort of agenda for next month. But I do run a nonprofit called She's All Cat, and I advocate and educate all the community about all things cats. So basically, if you haven't heard me before, we have a huge crisis in Arizona, especially Phoenix, with the overpopulation of cats. We have over 500,000 cats living on our streets that are suffering every day. Not only are the cats suffering, but the people that are caring for the cats are suffering, mental illness, all kinds of things. So I just want to tell you 2 stories and then I'll finish. First story is I went to help a lady that lives down on Roosevelt. Somebody had thrown 3 cats out of a apartment when a gentleman had died, and they were three senior cats, so we were going to help trap them and find them a placement. So I was talking to the lady. She has about 45 cats that she feeds in her colony. Beautiful, long red hair. I said, what do you do? She said she's a nurse in Phoenix, and she moved here from Michigan probably 15 years ago. She started feeding this colony. And I said, do you have any kids? Do you have any family? Do you go on a vacation? No, she can't do any of that because this is her life now. And this is what a lot of people's lives are that are dedicating their lives to cats. There's a very small group of community citizens that are doing this, and there's nobody helping. So these people are becoming mentally ill, they're becoming suicidal. There's a lot of issues happening with that. So I want to tell you that. The second story is I went to an apartment community about a month ago where I was helping another lady that does do cat rescue there, trap some kittens. The people that live in the community would not let me go onto their porch where there was 2 litters of kittens living because they liked to look at them. They wanted to go outside and look at the kittens, and they were cute, and they thought that was nice. So a week later, they called me, and they wanted my help at this point. And this is the kitten that they brought me. This is just one thing this is nothing. This is nothing compared to what we see every day. And that's what's on our streets. That's what we see. That's what people come to see. And it's just something that I think that we should work on and acknowledge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Diane is next, followed by Peter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I bring up the 2 pictures that I sent to my councilman today, I wanted to let you know, Mayor, that I did support you at MAG today for bringing up very necessary situation is that Phoenix has borne the brunt of and the challenge to have the cooling centers and to shelter the homeless all over the MAG, or we're talking about Maricopa County and its cities and tribes and like that. And she asked, and there were no mayors that actually said that they had any of the respite or cooling centers, and that's a sad situation. What I sent to you, Carlos Galindo Alvera, was I called yesterday about the 7th Avenue and Roosevelt bus stop, which has been a problem because we've had encampments there and around the Circle K. And as a citizen and a bus patron, you know, I do go over there. I'd like to see, and I use the bus. And while I'm there, it's just that, you know, I'm going up to work out and I'm thinking, you know, they don't pay me to bend over at where at LA Fitness. I might as well just, while I'm here, put a glove on and clean up the bus stop. Nobody is cleaning it up, throwing down while I'm there. So I was reporting, and on Mondays, apparently the number that I'm called for the cleanup, it's not there. It's Tuesday through Friday. So, you know, I ended up going online and I couldn't register that encampment because it's not called a crime, a theft, or a burglary. So I'm back on the phone, and finally I insisted to the receptionist of police, let the police know if they're around there, do a drive around, because I had seen an encampment with a lot of stuff thrown. And I said, that's very unfair to people that go to work or go to see families or need to use transit, that the seats out now, which I will support because people were there. But what I'm going for, and I talked to transit operations, very nice man, he said it's a good idea. At one time, the city, and I don't think that it was ambitious, Mayor, had adopt the bus stop. I would like to see that be brought up, and I would like to be the representative of this particular site that's an ongoing problem. The Roosevelt neighborhood wants to have the police send a letter to the state and take their beer and wine license away from Circle K. I have never seen anybody go in there that looks homeless or is drinking, so that's not the problem.
Thank you, Diane. Peter is next, followed by Brindy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Peter South, and I am a property manager for short-term rentals, as well as I own a short-term rental here in Phoenix District 6. And the reason that I'm here today is because the city passed their short-term rental ordinance about a year ago, and I'm just going to tell you guys it's very confusing. It is far more confusing than all of the other cities. I've worked with both Tempe and Scottsdale City Councils to create theirs, and honestly, their online portal is super simple. It's very easy. City of Phoenix has a bunch of other things that none of the other cities have. You have to get a notarization of your document. You have to send certified mail. So I can tell you guys, council members, the short-term rental community is not happy with this ordinance. And another thing the city did is they went right into enforcement mode. And the other cities around the valley, they were like, hey, let's give everybody time to bring them in to the licensing agreement for short-term rentals. I even got fined $500 while I was licensed because I was in the middle of processing and the city of Phoenix caught me. Sorry, you caught me, but I wasn't trying to get around it. It was just very confusing. So I paid the fine. But what I'm asking City of Phoenix in the new year, please, I'm part of another organization, Arizonans for Responsible Tourism. We would love to work with you to help the city, to partner with the city, and to bring everybody into registration. But please let us work together, and maybe let's have parity, let's have uniformity across the cities, because that'd be really awesome for the short-term rental community. Thank you so much.
Mayor, could I just ask for clarification real quick? Or can he repeat the cities that he said have good
Scottsdale and
system?
Tempe.
Okay, thank you.
And just, we can't do substantive. Okay, Councilwoman Pastor.
I would like the planning director, if he could explain the whole process.
Nope, I don't, nope.
Okay, sorry.
We can put it on an agenda, that's all we can do. Brindy is next. Our final speaker will be Eric after Brindy.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Brindy, and I am actually here on behalf of Arizonans for Responsible Tourism, or AZRT, and we are a statewide advocacy and nonprofit organization, and so we do represent over 2,000 short-term rental hosts, including many here in Phoenix. I volunteer on that board with Peter, and our mission at AZRT is to promote responsible tourism and fair, reasonable short-term rental regulations. We believe short-term rentals can be a positive force in communities when managed well. Our members are engaged, proactive, and eager to comply when rules are clear, fair, and enforceable. We have successfully built collaborative relationships with cities like Sedona and Gilbert, where we've worked together on solutions that balance the needs of residents, the tourism economy, and the hosting community. We'd love to establish a similar partnership with the city of Phoenix. We understand that Phoenix is a larger city with unique challenges, but we believe collaboration can bring tremendous benefits. AZRT is uniquely positioned to assist. We have monthly or weekly newsletters, monthly educational webinars, and an online member forum. We communicate directly with hosts, educating and informing them about policies and best practices. We can help amplify city messages, improve compliance, and foster accountability among hosts. I know one of the big questions right now is we have a lot of hosts wanting to be compliant, wanting to renew their short-term rental licenses, and there's just a lot of confusion. And as an organization, we want to help. We're just really struggling to get the answers that we need. So we are eager to partner with the city of Phoenix to support responsible short-term rental practices. I will follow up by sending an email. We have been working and receiving responses from Teresa Hillner, so I'll send an email, copy our entire board, as well as the vacation.rental at Phoenix.gov. To explore how we can collaborate directly, effectively. I think it would be neat if we could set up just a meeting and just talk and explore how we could work together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Glad you're in touch with staff already. And our final speaker will be Eric.
Hi. Thank you as always for the chance to speak here. I came today to, well, first of all, let me start out with for Councilman Waring, if you like books, I got 2 books that I've read recently that I thought were really good. The first was called God's Bankers, A History of Money and Power at the Vatican. It's all right. It's written by some reporter. The second book we should all probably check out is called The Sovereign Prerogative, the Supreme Court and the Quest for Law. That's by one of my favorite legal scholars by the name of UGV Rostow. But anyway, what I came here to say today is, and I'm sorry if this scares anybody, but it should. There's a Holocaust coming. Whether we like it or not, it is coming our way. Now, the first duty of society is justice, which really boils down to protecting ourselves. There's an avalanche coming down the mountain, and we can either cut tail and run, like I thought about doing, or we can stand and protect our land from the inequality, and what's coming down the mountain is nothing nice. Now, make no mistake about it. They're talking about they're talking about finding, detaining, and deporting. The number they put is 11 million people, which is strangely similar to the amount of Jews who were going through something similar. But make no mistake about it, to actually move that amount of people, there's only one way to do it. You have to pack them into train cars to move that amount of people. And you know, I thought I had a lot of good things going on for the city. I managed to get them to build a light rail to South Phoenix, which some of you may know, but what a lot of you don't know is the whole point of that was to connect it through fast train from here to Tucson. I now request that we put that project on hold. We shouldn't allow any federal funds to be used to deport our neighbors to a place they've never been. And, you know, the choices we make right now will reflect through history. You know, and if we make the right choices won't be easy, but if we can make these right choices, our grandchildren's grandchildren will look at their classmates
and they'll say, my ancestors were Phoenicians, keepers of the Constitution, defenders of democracy, the people most responsible for the beauty the world will eventually settle into. But make no mistake about it, it's coming whether we like it or not. And then my final thought is I want you to understand something very clearly so there's no mistaking it later. The message from the Black and Mexican communities to y'all is very clear. If you touch that ballot box, we have no choice but to respond with bullets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned.